Yo, give people super longevity, cure breast cancer, make people appear physically younger longer, as well as make people sexier, all with a particular scientific medical approach. Many things have physiological receptors at the body. The body also contains a wide variety of natural chemicals that are attached to these receptors. These are called ligands. Some of these receptor ligands activate the receptor, others merely occupy that area, passivating the receptor, and others reduce the receptor's activity. Now, with immunization, you can cause the body to basically mop up any of those specific kinds of naturally occurring chemicals, cytokines at the body, that would passivate or reduce the activity of a receptor. To create greater longevity, the mTOR receptor, which is associated with the longevity effects of the drug rapamycin, you would immunize the person's body against those naturally occurring physical chemicals that either passivated the receptor or reduced the receptor's activity. Thus, with those naturally occurring chemicals decreased, the naturally occurring chemicals that activate the mTOR receptor would carry the effect, causing the effect of rapamycin's longevity without actually giving the person rapamycin. Similarly, to reduce the amount of breast cancer, or possibly cure it, you would look at the HER, Herceptin receptors. Then you would immunize against those proteins naturally occurring at the body that activated that receptor, leaving the ones that passivated the receptor or reduced the receptor's activity, thus reducing breast cancer. Now, to create the greater length of youthful appearance, we would look to the effect of aspirin as well as ibuprofen on UV-associated response at the dermis. Basically, aspirin as well as ibuprofen reduce the effect of UV light on the skin. They're about SPF 3, it's published. Actually, it's not published. That's what my interpretation is of the graph that compared the multiplication factors of those things. So basically, if you take aspirin or ibuprofen, you get a third less physiological harm to the skin, which I decided was similar to SPF 3. Yet SPF 3 is actually probably a technical engineering specification associated with UVB radiation and things like that. So it's kind of like SPF 3. And I have a feeling this is the part of the video that I might just edit. So I'm going to keep talking. To create greater appearance of youthfulness, we can look at modifying what are known as COX-2 receptor activators. Aspirin as well as ibuprofen are COX-2 modulators. Now, aspirin as well as ibuprofen also reduce the amount of dermatological harm from ultraviolet light. They reduce it about a third, so they're similar to SPF 3. Now, over half of physiological visual aging is thought to be associated with UV. Thus, if a person were to simply take aspirin or ibuprofen every day, it's possible that they might appear to age at half or a third the normal rate. Thus, since those work with what are known as COX-2 receptors, you can also use the approach of immunizing people against those naturally occurring physiochemicals as well as cytokines that activate COX-2, leaving only those that passivate or reduce COX-2 activation present at the body, thus slowing the appearance of visual aging from the sun. Then there's sexiness. There's a peptide known as bremelanotide, and it works on specific receptors, thus finding those naturally occurring chemicals that actually passivate those receptors or reduce their activity, then immunizing against those chemicals leaves only those naturally occurring chemicals which activate the sexy bremelanotide receptors, causing people to feel more sexy all the time. I don't know what this methodology of immunizing against a naturally occurring group of chemicals to modulate a receptor is called, yet it does have a clear path to improving people's lives.